Everybody can get cheap. Sure. We want the farmers then because we got to feed the police, we got to feed the prime minister, and we got to feed the lads them and so on. That's why we have to encourage our farmers, and we have to make it easier and find ways, create ways in order to make them feel comfortable, not discouraged. And I say once again, night. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. We'll take another call. Welcome to Leadership Matters. You're live.
Hello, good evening.
Hello, good evening.
All right, good evening. I am smiling because the last caller introduced the subject what I am about to speak on. First of all, concerning the pandemic we've gone through, I think our team of persons have done an excellent job in keeping the country safe. And no amount of recognition which they got, is even enough. I would even make a joke in it and say, seriously, even in the upcoming January Queen's Honors List, if they could get another one for the job they did, I think it would be even noteworthy. However, I have a concern, though, because the medical people and others who have been recognized, I think there was an omission there that was made. I think it would have been a good thing if the police was also recognized in the same sense like the others were being recognized. I think it would have been a good message to send to the police to say, hey, we recognize your service and so forth, and even now the police is still there. It would have been a good thing to recognize the police to say, hey, we not only want you when there is rough work to do, somebody is lost in the hills, somebody dies somewhere and you got to go and find them. But now that is something else. And we have put in what others have put in. The recognition should have come to them as well. I think it would have been a good message to the police, because sometimes the police feel as though, man, it's only when the rough work there that the country think about us. Now at this stage, it would have been a good thing. So this is the concern I have. Police is special for me. And whenever I see something like that, I figure that some recognition could still be sought somewhere to say to the policeman, we have not forgotten you. So more or less, this is my contribution. I think that there might have been a mistake, or somewhere along the line, if something can be done to say to the police, man, we recognize your service as well as those in the medical field. And Mr. Samuels is there too, coming out of the police, so he understands how police feel. So, Mr. Samuels, I am certain that you share my thing. Well, that's what I have to say to this conversation.
Thank you so much for sharing your thoughts with us. And I believe this is our final call. Welcome to Leadership Matters. You're live.
Yes, hello, good evening. I just wanted to make one more question. The Lyft and the Uber ride share that is trying to get into St. Kitts and Nevis. is the government going to give them the licensing to operate? I'm just thinking that this Lyft rideshare program can interfere with the local taxi man them there. Is there any concern from the government standpoint or from the Department of Tourism? And if so, can they be blocked? Is there any type of debate with that Lyft and Uber trying to get in? Is there any kickback from the local taxi drivers to, bar them from getting licensing in the Federation? That's my last question for the night. Thanks.
Before you go, could you just repeat exactly what your question is so that we're clear?
The question is the government going to give the Lyft rideshare program, is the government going to give them licensing to operate, seeing that they can interfere with the local taxi, they can take away from the local taxi drivers? Is that clear enough?
Yes, sir. Thank you so much.
Okay, bye-bye. Thanks.
Have a good evening. Okay, so we're going to take a break now, and once we return, we will have the panelists wrap up, and in wrapping up, they will address your questions and concerns.
The St. Kitts and Nevis Chamber of Industry and Commerce would like to remind persons when patronizing businesses to abide by the following COVID-19 guidelines to protect employees, customers, and our community. Urge employers to check employees and customers with a non-contact head thermometer on arrival to a business place. It's mandatory that employees wear a face mask when at work and in the presence of others. No customers will be permitted to enter an establishment without a face mask. Encourage both employees and customers to wash their hands with soap and water or sanitize their hands with an alcohol-based hand sanitizer of at least 60% alcohol when entering a building, after interacting with customers, and throughout the day. Remember to maintain 6 feet physical and social distancing. Consider installing barriers such as sneeze guards or partitions in high traffic areas to limit close contact between employees and customers. Clean and disinfect highly touched surfaces such as doorknobs, telephones, cash registers, bathrooms, tables, and countertops regularly throughout the day. Offer e-commerce services or curbside pickup options wherever possible. Encourage good hygiene practices among staff and customers by posting signs and place. For more information and tips to consider, visit www.covid19.gov.kn.
As we get ready to serve, it is important that we improve our vehicles to ensure the safety of our guests and ourselves. Outfit your vehicle with appropriate dividers to separate driver from passenger. Plexiglass or Velcro plastic divider may be used. Have a minimum of 2 hand sanitizers, one for you and one for your guests. Always carry extra mask and disinfectant in your vehicle, and post signs to remind passengers to use hand sanitizers and wear their mask and follow social distancing protocols.
When providing a service, it is important that the hands of the passengers are sanitized before entering the vehicle. Remember, a mask must always be worn by all occupants of the vehicle for the duration of the trip. At the end of the trip, remember to wish your passengers a good day. Ensure they have left no personal items behind and sanitize their hands.
Once you have completed your trip, remember to sanitize your hands and your vehicle. Seats must be disinfected and all high-touch areas, such as doors and seat handles, must be sanitized before your next trip. Let's do all we can to keep ourselves and our visitors safe.
My name is Carla Astafan, and I have been a potter for over 20 years. And I know it's a very difficult time for all of us in the industry, but this time has given me the opportunity to really rethink the whole operation. It's given me time to do other things, to do my pottery. I'm trying to stockpile on my work. To my brothers and sisters in the tourism industry, this is a time to look towards the future. This is a time to examine what you have been doing, see what new things you can do, how you can diversify, how you can innovate, plan ahead. So with proper planning, we will all be prosperous in the future.
To Leadership Matters, we had several callers, all with very interesting and important contributions and questions. And the panelists have made a note of all your questions and concerns. They will respond to them and then give their final thoughts before we end the program. We're going to begin the way we began, well, in reverse, with Mr. DaCosta, who went last the first time. Now he's going to go first this time. And I also put to Mr. DaCosta two questions that came and concerns that came in via WhatsApp and online. And the first question was that if you're saying to eat local, why are farmers using chemicals? If we are to eat healthy and local, why not weed the old-fashioned way so we can really eat healthier? He's going to respond to that. He's also going to respond to suggestions that there are no rewards in agriculture and people nowadays don't want to get their hands dirty for little rewards. And Mr. DaCosta will respond to those and give his final thoughts. Mr. DaCosta?
Thank you, Madam Moderator, and thank you, callers, for your concerns, suggestions, and questions. I respond in this order based on how and when the questions were asked. One person called and asked about the clearing of land assistance, if there is any, and should there be any. I am not aware if there is any in terms of clearing the land, but I strongly believe that there should be. I'll give you one example which involves myself, and I'm sure it's not limited to me, but to many other farmers. There's an area in which I am farming where I was allotted some land. There was one portion that involved 8 acres to be fenced. I was only able to fence around 3. The other 5 is heavily forested. I've had ongoing discussions with the field officer, encouragement to go ahead and clear it. I started doing so, but I had to get a heavy equipment / machinery, and the cost is very high. I have anticipated by the time the guy is done, it's going to cost over close to $20,000. Now, that definitely needs assistance and some form of subsidy. And I'm sure other farmers, not only livestock but crop farming, would have and still continue to experience similar situations. I say, if you're going to help someone, help them where they really need to get the help. Help them throughout. So I think there should be assistance for clearing the lands. Secondly, there was this guy who suggested, well, asked the question about the stimulus package. How does it benefit farmers? It has benefited farmers in many different areas. For example, it involves the giving of free seedlings and free seeds to be planted by farmers, both subsistence / backyard farmers and the larger scale farmers. So that's a benefit. When it comes to animal farming and animal farmers, they're still in the process of assisting by giving free fencing wire. I would like to go on record by saying I have received. Can more be done? Yes, but we still give thanks for what has and is continuing to be done. In response to the use of chemicals in farming, it's a very tough question. I would put it this way. Those of us who are doing our backyard farming / subsistence farming, I would strongly urge you not to use chemicals. But for those of us who are doing farming on a larger scale, it involves a lot of manual labor control. Also, there are some chemicals that are very good. If you remember, at one time, St. Kitts had an economy that was agricultural based. And as a kid growing up, I remember them strongly using, in fact, I learned it in school, NPK, nitrogen, potassium, and phosphorus. So some chemicals are good. Where that is the case, I strongly encourage them. Where it is not the case, I would tell farmers as far as you possibly can, avoid. Now, when it comes to no rewards in farming, I smile and I receive your question and comment with respect. But first and foremost, there are some professions where monetary reward, and I'm assuming you're referring to that, there are some professions where monetary reward is not the first outcome. I can give you, for example, one of the lowest paid civil servants, or group of civil servants with qualifications, is teachers. Now, when it comes to farmers and rewards, there's a lot of rewards outside of the monetary reward. But it is true, monetary reward is very slow in coming. But what does that say? Number one, if you intend to go into farming, and if you are already in farming, for those who have the intention, patience must be one of your virtue. I'll tell you why. Take, for example, a livestock farmer. A cow takes 9 months to give an offspring once it has been impregnated. You cannot sell that offspring until it is like almost a year going on 2 years. So you will see no reward up to 2 years. That is why I said there needs to be subsidizing of especially livestock farming. How can you go to a bank to get a loan and tell the bank, please excuse me, sir, ma'am, can you wait until at least 2 years before you begin to pay back? I don't know of any institution who is willing to do that. Consequently, I am saying again, subsidizing. Now, in terms of wrapping up, I must admit, based on what one of the comments where it is said housing needs are taking up lands that were once used for agricultural purposes, especially livestock. Livestock farming requires a lot of land. In fact, there is a ratio which says for cows, or cattle as we would say, you should have 1 acre of land for every cow or cattle that you have. No, that is a lot of land. Simply because our agricultural practice is mainly based on grass feeding. There are supplementary feeding that we can also give to minimize the land use as one solution. Another caller said that we should make provision for duty-free. I strongly believe so. Not only for vehicles though. I think, and I would like to put this as a challenge in my wrapping up to the Agricultural Department, that all farming tools, equipment, and / material should be duty-free. For there will come a time when the stimulus program giving fencing has ended, but farmers will still need to continue fencing. So I think that can be a form of subsidy. It just needs the logistics can be worked out so that nobody cheats or takes advantage of the system. And last but not least, I'm going to make a statement of encouragement which would contradict or seem to go against the statement of no reward in farming. I would like to encourage those of us who are in farming to continue. It's hard, but it's also doable. And in light of our present situation, we are needed more than ever before. For those of us who are contemplating farming, I want to say to you, you are welcome to enter. Just remember, you're going to face challenges that you've never faced before. You're going to need patience. And I'll tell you one or two more advantages, especially when it comes to livestock farming. You learn a lot of patience. For animals don't always do what you want. In fact, most of the time they don't. And if you get upset, it's much more frustrating. They teach you patience, understanding. And I'll tell you one extra reward you get as a farmer, not only livestock, but even vegetable crop. When you spend time in the hills, the Rastaman would say with due respect, Zion, you learn a sense of peace, quietness, and you get, somehow you feel closer to your first love. So I want to encourage us all, like I would have done before in my opening statement, let us get back and go back to our first love. Let us deem agriculture as a good thing, and let us continue to eat, buy, and sell local. And I thank you all.
Thank you so much, Mr. DeCosta. We'll now move to Mrs. Matthews, President of the Chamber of Industry and Commerce.
Thank you, Jackie. So firstly, I'll try to answer those questions that were directed to the Chamber. In response to the vehicle question on vehicles, what I that if you're purchasing a vehicle from a bona fide authorized reseller or a vehicle dealer locally, I think what I would say is each reseller, each merchant would have a warranty in place. I'm not saying all warranties are the same, and I think as a buyer, one of the first questions you should ask when you're purchasing a vehicle, it's a major investment, is what is the warranty on this vehicle? Also, if you're purchasing locally from a dealer, again, you have certain rights in your document when you purchase. It gives you all of your schedule of tune-ups, free tune-ups for the first 3, I believe, and so forth. So I think for the Chamber, I can't sit here to say that we can do anything particularly helpful, but we certainly will ask you, the caller, you are more than welcome to bring concerns to the Chamber. We are on Horsfords Road. Our phone number is 465-2980. Andrew Satney is our director, executive director. He's always willing to listen and to take any comments, and we can see if we can bring you any feedback. If that dealer is actually a member of our chamber, we certainly can bring them the matter to them. Once you have all the necessary information and facts, which are pretty straight, so we'll need you to do that. So that is welcome. I don't have any more information for you that I can help you on the vehicle issue. Secondly, on price concerns in the supermarkets, yes, we have been hearing of those concerns. Yes, we are consumers ourselves, and we do see an increase. I will admit to that, yes. Some people call it price gouging, and price gouging is a real term. It's actually usually occurs during natural disasters when the demand, the seller increases the price of the product or the service or the goods to a level much higher than what is normally acceptable or you're used to, and that is because of there is a demand and a supply shock. And COVID is a very real example. But what I will now ask is, because this matter keeps reiterating and coming up at certain forums and questions that are really warranted, I think I will call on the the Ministry of Consumer Affairs, the Department of Consumer Affairs, to probably do an exercise of a basket of goods, probably 10 to 15 items, and compare to various, go around to various supermarkets and do price checking back to, say, early January or last year sometime, and see what those look like, those comparatives are, and send us a report at the chamber, and then the chamber can then move on that. Once the chamber has the necessary data, we can't actually go into these places and do that exercise, because we will be seen as a conflict of interest, because many of these supermarkets and shops or groceries are our members. So we ask that that can be done, and then from there we can take that information and we can act on it, and then move at the board level on a matter of that significance. So we do encourage that. Secondly, OTI, that was a question directed to me, on the price of OTI. Now that's $500. I have to agree with the Prime Minister. I've heard him several times speak to that price. That is $35 US per night in a hotel, a decent hotel at that. And the government is already subsidizing the other costs, including the security for 24-hour security there, and other costs that they have to bear in terms of the manpower. I can't speak to the cost that OTI has to bear, the operational expenses of having someone in that room. You have internet access included. You have the use of, I think, a microwave to warm your food, so there's some cost there. But I will certainly raise it with my director, who sits on the Chamber's board. And it's a matter that, we can raise, but as a question, but it is already, to be honest, a fair price if you compare to what hotels really cost at that level. I believe I read somewhere recently, the Prime Minister, you may have to correct me, sir, but I believe I read recently that there are some considerations being given in terms of allowing people like a possible payment plan if they're really struggling. Is that correct?
Yes.
Yes, if they're really struggling, that there are ways that they might be able to assist you in that regard. So, and then for the farmers, we sit on the Agriculture Marketing Committee, and I think recently you've seen, and in fisheries, RAMS with a new thrust to sell local fish, and we are trying to push the other members in that regard. But in terms of the farming and the produce, what I understand is that, and we've learned in this since being on the agriculture marketing, I don't sit personally on the committee, but we have two members, and Andrew who sits on that. But market research, lack of market research. We need the farmers to do more market research with the supermarkets. Find out what do they really need, what is the high turnover produce. What if it's peppers, we don't want every farmer, growing peppers. It needs to be diversified, because these supermarkets are price sensitive. These are perishables, so they're not going to purchase, an overstock on an item that the margin on that is competitive, so they're not going to overstock. So what we understand is that there needs to be more market research in that regard to see what is it these grocers and these supermarkets really need and what is the demand for, and then you produce accordingly. I think the engagement came after the seedlings, the sowing was done, and so this is a conversation going forward that we have to correct. But now we sit on that committee. I think it's great, and we can only improve going forward in making sure that now that you don't have the hotels, there will be, you do need the supermarkets to take up a lot of that produce that you do have. And so we are encouraging that, and we're hoping to move forward. I want to just touch on the fisheries there for a moment with the recent food poisoning, the fish poisoning, sorry, that we would like, I think, some more information as to what type of fish was causing that poisoning, because we're concerned at the chamber about the fishermen who have just had a new thrust, and assistance from government in terms of subsidies in helping the fishermen to get out there, that we don't want this to cause some retraction. So maybe if we could find out what type of fish, and people can get back to eating fish, We have safe waters for fishing. We have always had safe waters. And I know investigation is we can move ahead and get the fishermen back up to speed in that regard. In closing, I think I'd just like to say to the Prime Minister that we'd like to thank the addition of the second VAT day that he's announced today. I smile because it was a request we had on Friday's collaborative process, and so thank you for that. I believe all the businesses and the community in general, everyone, and Mr. Samuel and his task force and the CMO will be very happy about that to mitigate a lot of the social distancing protocols. The Chamber embarked on a buy local campaign just several months ago, September, and many of you may have heard it on the radio, including here at ZIZ, and we plan to have a remerge of that buy local campaign in encouraging purchasing locally across the board. Money stays in the economy, it circulates, it provides employment, better taxes for the government, and better profits for local companies. Everybody benefits. So we will be running that again. We know the big giant with the smiley face, Amazon, is out there and he's very easy to access. But at the same time, you know, please always consider local first. Try to negotiate pricing, maybe a discount. Pricing is not that bad when you do your comparatives and do your multiplication factors on imports. I think we are quite competitive. So I'd like to encourage that. I would like to announce to the general public and to this in a private sector liaison committee. And I believe that this will help to answer some of the questions that one of the callers had earlier. And we hope that we could help in that. And it's really it would be a group of stakeholders that will come together under the Chamber's umbrella. And we are currently setting the framework in place for that committee. And we hope to have that in place within the next few weeks, because it's a lot of background work that has to go into the terms of reference for that committee and how it would function. But it's to bridge, to provide a bridge between the private sector and the government, in particular the National Task Force, and will act as a conduit for effective communication between the two sectors. And this would help to expedite a consultative process, which is necessary for the rapid sharing of information as we seek to continue to reopen. And what we feel with this, caller earlier spoke on some frustrations, but there's so much happening that has to be done in reopening an economy. We feel we can be helpful rather than, Mr. Samuel likes to use the term, be part of the solution, not the problem. So we want to be part of the solution. And I believe and hope that these areas that we can assist in even document preparation and assisting with a seamless process as we move forward to continue to reopen responsibly and in a manageable process. Before I close, I just want to say and ask the public and the business community, in particular members of the Chamber and non-members, but even more those who are members, you have a right and a responsibility to uphold those protocols and guidelines set forth during this pandemic. We're reopening. We are asking you to safeguard your employees, your associates, your customers, your friends, anyone who comes into your establishment. You have a responsibility, and you need to keep mindful that any exposure in your location, you could be infecting yourself and others around you. Please, masks are a must, and enforce all protocols in the restaurants, every sector. We are asking you again to please, if you have any questions, you can reach the Chamber at 465-2980. We're happy to take any calls and answer any of your questions, member or not. We are open to your questions and any concerns. You can reach us on Facebook, sknchamber.com. Please like our page, and we are constantly doing updates. And I'd like to thank everyone for this evening, to be here with you this evening, and for Jackie for sitting in so nicely in your role. Thank you.
And thank you. We'll move next to Mr. Samuel, who is the chair of the National COVID-19 Task Force.
Thank you, Madam Moderator. I just want to, in closing, state the following, that I wish for us to add value to the successes gained, and also for us to adopt a no-return policy and the failures of other countries. What I am saying, we don't want any further lockdown. St. Lucia experienced the first COVID-19 death today, and 2 more persons are in critical conditions. I am appealing to the general public to help us for you not to become one of those statistics. We will continue with the risk communication, but no more than ever, we need to be more vigilant in protecting ourselves, our families, and also our precious borders. I'd wish to advise that we remain alert to the present weather condition. The Met Office has advised that the Federation should expect 3 to 6 inches of rain over the next 24 hours. If this amount of rain is materialized, then it will heighten the chances of flash flooding. This means that everyone should exercise caution when traversing areas that are prone to flooding, landslide, rock falling, as the soil is heavily saturated. I am asking persons to refrain from parking in guts overnight. Please do not attempt to drive through these waterways if they are running. The Honorable Prime Minister will be advised in the morning regarding any potential threats that may interrupt the. So therefore, I'm hopeful that persons won't call me 4 o'clock in the morning and ask me if there will be school or no school. The Prime Minister will address the country or take the necessary decision-making processes in this regard. The flash flood watch will remain in effect overnight. However, this can be upgraded within short notice. Thank you, Honorable Prime Minister, for your gracious invitation, and to the callers. I am appealing for the cooperation and support of the general public now that we are receiving commercial flights in the Federation of St. Kitts and Nevis. However, Honorable Prime Minister, just before I close, I want to highlight something that the President of the Chamber highlighted regarding OTI. In the contractual agreement within OTI and the government stipulated several points, and I wish to highlight a few. 1, all administrative, maintenance, security, meals, and housekeeping services will be provided by the government at its own cost. The Ocean Terrace will provide no staff. The government will be responsible for reimbursing the company for the repairs of any damages to the property caused by the occupants under quarantine or persons authorized by the government to access the property. The government will be responsible to reimburse the company of any loss of or damages to any equipment, furniture, appliances, linen, etc. The government will ensure that adequate security is in place to prevent any unauthorized access to the property. The government will ensure that the rooms and adjoinings are utilized and cleaned and sanitized at the end of their use or in quarantine. The fees for usage of the rooms will be $500 per month per room. And this, I must say, is of no, this is of no gain to the government. This money is paid to the TDC group of companies who are responsible for the Ocean Terrace Inn. And as the President would have said, this is heavily subsidized. I can say to you that the bills that are associated with maintenance are very high. For example, the electricity bill on a monthly basis is upward of 35,000 EC dollars. Water bill is upward of 17,000 EC dollars. And this has nothing to do yet with cable and internet, which I know the cable at the present moment is holding me highly responsible for. So therefore, citizens and residents, please note that this facility is only being used for quarantine by the government, and it's of no gain to the government as it regards to payment. So therefore, it is heavily subsidized. To the caller regarding the student or his daughter or daughter, I think he said, is supposed to come to St. Kitts. I'm going to advise you, as we have advised everyone, please apply to the COVID-19 task force at gov.kn. And this should document stating that, yes, your daughter is a student and you are requesting for exemption of quarantine fees. Now, when this is received, this will be processed and sent to the appropriate authorities for action, and this is done on a case-by-case basis. You ask whether it's only at OTI. We have also established relationship with the Royal St. Kitts Hotel, who have a program with us to support our students once they are returning. Now, this is not a definite yes. This means that you can make the submission and consideration will be given to your submission. And I want to highlight that the government so far, from the time we have started quarantining, has spent in excess of over 165,000 EC dollars in exemption fees for students, in particular elderly and other persons who would have had medical conditions. We have had students who would have returned from Cuba, students who would have returned from Trinidad, Barbados, and also the United States of America, including Canada. We have our students who will return from Barbados as well, and Jamaica. So therefore, the government has been doing a lot regarding exemption of fees for these critical for these critical groups such as students, the elderly, 62 and over, and also persons who have gone for extensive medical care. What you have to do is that you have to provide evidence in your submission that you are classified as one of those persons who we just mentioned. So again, I want to appeal to the general public to support the efforts of the government, the National COVID-19 Task Force, and our private partners such as the Chamber of Industry and Commerce. Ms. Matthews would have been baptized by the pandemic as our first female president of the Chamber. However, again, I want to commend her for her leadership, and I hope that she will continue such leadership. I don't know if she's learning something from the Honorable Prime Minister. He will have to speak on that. So thank you very much, Prime Minister, for having me, and thank you for the questions.
And finally, of course, not at all in the least, we have Prime Minister Dr. the Honorable Timothy Harris, who will address your concerns and questions and then make his closing remarks.
Thank you, Ms. Bryan. I want again to say a special thank you for fitting in so nicely tonight and for making an impact, a positive one, to the show. I want to thank the callers, and tonight I was impressed by the quality of calls, the focus on the areas which were the subject of presentations by the panelists. To the farmer, Easton Mawson, who raised the matter with respect to the support for farmers to be able to get vehicles, especially where the farms are located in the hills. We are with you on that one. And my understanding of the government policy is that every genuine farmer who is active in farming should apply for duty-free concession on a vehicle, or can apply for duty-free concessions on a vehicle suited for farming. In other words, you can't be a farmer and you want to get an expensive car to go up in the mountains, because that will not work. The vehicle has to be appropriate to the task at hand. And ideally, in the past, we have preferred four-wheel drive vehicles, particular pickups, because they can take the cargo, your farm from the ground down to the lowlands, into the supermarkets, etc. If there's a difficulty with that, I would say that each farmer who has a difficulty and who continues to be interested should speak with the permanent secretary in the Ministry of Agriculture. That is the policy that I know it to be, and that is the policy which the government would want to give its fullest support to as we attempt to beef up our efforts at food security. Pastor Benjamin, it was good to hear you. And I recorded, as it were, the message of support that you have brought to those who are involved in law enforcement. The entire country, I think, at this moment in time, is very pleased by the outstanding success we have had so far in the area of law and order. Over the last 3 years in particular, year on year, we have had a reduction of about 27% in the number of serious crimes in the country. So this is a very good record, and I commend Commissioner Brandy and all the other law enforcement heads and their teams for the excellent achievement we have had so far. To think of it, we have come a long way, when perhaps the conversation tonight would have been about homicides 5-6 years ago. The conversation in the country would have been about that, and the fear in the society through a number of serious interventions by the government. Support, outstanding support to law enforcement. Our last budget was in the region of 99 million thereabout for law enforcement, across police, fire, defense force, prisons, and NEMA. Never before has that level of support been provided to the police. New fleet of vehicles, new accommodations for the SSU, new facilities for the defense force at Wheelands, and we could go on and on. Renovation of almost all of our police stations, etc. And of course our CCTV program, which continues to be built out. But specifically, Pastor Benjamin raised the issue that we had health personnel and we had Mr. Abdias at NEMA who were recognized, and deservingly so, for their work in the fight to defeat COVID-19 so far. And he would have felt much more comforted had a similar recognition been accorded to the police. The truth is, it has been an all-of-society approach. And we could look across a variety of the institutions in the country where outstanding support and leadership came. We could have perhaps have someone nominated, the Chamber of Industry and Commerce, for their partnership, because from all reports from the task force, they had had a very strong working relationship with the Chamber of Industry and Commerce. Chamber President is no easy walkover, and at times have provided significant challenge because she's a lady with her own mind. But nonetheless, they have been able to come together in the national interest and do the right thing for our country. So, again, for that reason, when on the 16th of September the nominees were announced and those who succeeded, having gone through the process of evaluation by the appropriate committee headed by Mr. Martin, then some names were not there. The good news, however, is that I can say now without naming names that due recognition would be given to the police in the Queen's Honors Awards for the new year. So the police has not been left out. And we hope that the honor accorded to the police would in fact be seen as an award to all involved in law enforcement. I want to thank the lady caller who raised the issue of packaging in relation to agriculture. I didn't hear clearly Mr. DeCosta responded to this. Perhaps he's more into livestock, but that too need proper packaging. But I think that this is an important matter that we have to address going forward. It is one of the constraints, I believe, on the effective marketing of our agricultural produce. How we present them, how do we label them? And we need to do some work on that. And this may be another area in which we could have new business opportunity arising for our people. I want to commend entities like Sun Island Clothes, and we had Mount Strat. Well, plastic is not the word, but they provide a range of plastics of different types, which were useful and supportive to the efforts in agriculture. Sun Island deal with the molding of bottles, and I gather there are other entities involved in that. They also do packaging. And we want our farmers and those who are selling farming produce to take pride in the presentation of their products. And even if it costs an extra 5 cents or 10 cents, it is well worth it in terms of how it could impact upon your sales and people confidence in you. The caller raised the matter of no rewards, and I was comforted, in fact, this time when one of our farmers, Mr. Terence DeCosta, responded to that. And he said what I would have said. When you are doing something that you love, money is not all. Money certainly makes you a lot of evils, but money is no substitute for love. And those who have been involved in farming over the years have done so as a labor of love, taking pride in seeing their crops flourish and come bring yield. And of course, they deserve to live from their labor, and they have been doing so in large measure. They have not become millionaires, some of them. At least we have no way of verifying. What we can say, though, is that many of them live successful, happy lives, and they were able to take care of their families from their work in agriculture. Some of them come to mind. The oldest male in Tabernacle, Ben Jeffrey, spent a lifetime as a farmer. I remember growing up, and like Mr. DeCosta, he had been involved in livestock in the mains. And every week, he would butcher the animals and have them available for his customers. And his wife and family would do the black pudding and all the other things, the goat water. That was their livelihood, and that was his life. His son, George Jeffrey, is now one of the best livestock farmers we have in Tabernacle, had been part of the Pig Farmers or Growers Association, where a number of livestock farmers had come together to order in bulk farm produce. It was a very good effort at cooperative activity. Regrettably, that did not last as long as we would have liked. So maybe now the new group of persons, the Costa, Bucky Gatti to call in, Easton, Mawson, who called in tonight to give him support, can come together and help to reduce some of the costs by managing to purchase in bulk some of the produce. So I want to hail some of those farmers who come readily to mind, who have devoted so much into farming. Ben Jeffrey and George Jeffrey in Tabernacle, Winston Morris in Molyneux. And Winston, the records will show, was the lead person at Bayford's Farm for a very long time. When Bayford's had closed, he went on to teach agriculture at Keon High School, and then to become the head teacher at Keon High School. And after retirement, Winston returned to his first love, that of farming. And he's enjoying it very much. And, you know, he's also a member of the constituency Domino League. And so he comes from time to time, and those who are there enjoy the puddings and all the other things he brings from his farm. Keith Roy Matthew is a young, outstanding, committed farmer from the Phillips area. I commend also Eustace and Marsh and Smokey. All these are well-known personalities in Molyneux, committed to the farming. There is one who pleased me also, Cromwell Matthew of our mansion. They just love what they're doing. I want to add one well-known in Evis, Danny Atherton, who works at the Central Bank, but will not give up the farming because there's something special about it. And then we have Chubby and Mervyn Patrick, and several others. We could go on into Sadlers, into Parsons, to some of the young people who are involved. There's a fallacy out there that young people are not interested in farming. Indeed, as we tour the farms, we will notice that there is a significant number of serious young farmers who need to be encouraged People like Bucky got it. People like Mr. DeCosta here, still young enough to be called young. You know, and others who are involved doing a pretty good job. Doing a pretty good job in farming. I want to commend them for their seriousness. And why I do believe that farming can make it. I recall a Mr. Warrington Grant, Springfield egg farm, I think it was. Well-known person who had been involved in farming perhaps for a lifetime. And again, I would say that he has been a success story. So it is not true that you cannot do well in farming. All these persons, I believe, would give excellent testimony in support that it is worth the effort to become involved in farming. There are challenges, the monkey problem, still an ongoing one. The seasonality of the weather at times damper the output. All these constraints, though, we have to work, if we are serious about food security, to address them through technology, to shade houses, to drip irrigation, and a range of other ideas. What I would say I would want to see is that all farm-specific items become duty-free, because I'm hearing that some of them are not. So, if Mr. DeCosta can provide me with a list of those things that are not on the duty-free list, I can ensure you have to bring it early within this week, by next week, Tuesday. We will ensure that we can act on this for the upcoming budget. Because as I said, the vision must be, having regard to your call, you use a word that is out of fashion now, subsidies, but we need to ensure that we buttress the farming sector with adequate support. In the same way, as a matter of policy and law, we buttress the manufacturing sector, providing them with duty-free concessions, tax holidays for extensive period of time. For the same way, we give duty-free concessions to the hotels that are being built, and even when they are open and their inputs and products, we need to give equal support to the farming community to ensure it can play a much more significant role in nation building and in national life. And I promise, as a son of a farmer, as a country boy who understands farming, who have gone all the way into the mountains with my grandfather, and all my grandmother cautioned me, is that you see how your grandfather that worked so hard, I want something better for you. I never appreciate what she meant. One of the things I did recall, she did not want me to go to cut the sugar cane, and I didn't want to go there because it was hard work. Too hard a work for a young boy at the time to be drawn to. So I understand some of the difficulties of the farming community, and I want to make a difference with your help to turn the curve and really to create what I've said repeatedly. St. Kitts and Nevis must become the Garden of Eden in many respects. A country booming, a country prosperous, a country where every person has an opportunity to advance by his effort. And importantly, I want in closing to say that we have to reach to a position where we are minded that we will not get anywhere far unless we are committed to the journey. We will not get anywhere far unless we understand that it's our industry, our hard work, our perseverance. Those are the attributes that will get us there. And certainly our creativity. There are going to be obstacles. We have to find a way to meander, to get around them, to get to the journey. And so that would be my encouragement to the farmers, to every boy and every girl. You can get to the destination. There are going to be obstacles. Let us use your industry. You must use your industry and your creativity to get to the destination. The government and other persons in the society would wish and may give you the help, but you are smart enough. Everything now almost you can Google and find and improve upon. We want you to advance. Finally, to the citizens of St. Kitts and Nevis. St. Kitts and Nevis, we have a lot of potential as a country. We have a lot of potential as a country and a people. Let us work together, because working together, we can achieve more. The success of our fight to defeat COVID-19 has only been as amazingly great as it has been because we developed early an all-of-society approach. So we had the Chambers of Industry and Commerce giving excellent, constructive support to the efforts of the experts and to the task force. We had excellent support coming from the church and the broader religious community. We had excellent support coming from those who are involved in a variety of professional delivery service. Our bankers, the Banking Association came together and everyone recognized the moment. We are still at a moment in time in which a coordinated national response is now needed to take us from the depths of an economic recession which the entire world is focused on. I heard President-elect Biden saying that the #1 priority is the recovery effort after he becomes officially the 46th, I think, President of the United States of America. The most powerful country in the world, the United States of America, will exist this COVID, damaged, bruised, and battered like any other weak country around the world. COVID-19 then is not a respecter of persons, of countries, of size. And the sooner all of us in St. Kitts and Nevis realize that, and the sooner we agree that we will marshal all of our efforts to fight a good fight, to get beyond this, and to bring our country to work again for our own national benefit, the better it will be. So I pray God's blessing on our country and that we continue to look out for each other. May God again keep our country strong, prosperous, and safe. Again, thank you very much to all of the panelists who have done such an excellent job to assist in the national conversation regarding where the country must go. But what was useful is that we have heard from each of the panelists what they or their unit can do to assist us in the forward move. Thanks again for listening, and God bless us all.
I too would like to thank each and every one of you for not just tuning in and listening, but for the callers who participated and helped to make this program exactly what it is, a forum through which residents and citizens of St. Kitts and Nevis at home and abroad are engaged on issues of national interest. I want to thank the panelists as well for making themselves available to you, presenting their updates from their respective organizations, and also saying, ask me any question and I'll answer it to the best of my ability. I believe they did. We got several questions and we attempted to answer all of them. If we missed any, it wasn't intentional. Leadership Matters takes place every Tuesday, so if that was the case, of course, there's another opportunity for you to try to get your question in. I hope you have an enjoyable night. I know I enjoyed my time here, and I hope that you stay safe and tune in next week right here on ZIZ Radio, television, sorry. Thank you so much. Take care. See, we switched it.
The St. Kitts and Nevis Chamber of Industry and Commerce would like to remind persons when patronizing businesses to abide by the following COVID-19 guidelines to protect employees, customers, and